All right, one of the projects that I have for my students to do is the puzzle, and basically I have a couple of books full of these puzzles. I have animals and dragons and all sorts of things for them to cut out, and I like these because they can actually stand up and stay together while standing up. So like this. But anyway, I just want to show the system that I have for handing out the puzzles. All right. These are the books I was talking about. These two are the best books that I found so far. This one is probably not my favorite. They don't have enough pieces to really do a whole lot. So they keep the animals whole rather than cutting them into smaller pieces. You know, if you're looking for a small project, this would be okay. But these two, I really like these two. It has all these different animals. It shows you what it would look like after you're done, and there's the pattern. Okay, so there's that one. These are by Judy and Dave Peterson. So this one's the animal one. This one has a lot more in it. A lot of different animals. Okay, so if you know of any other books out there, let me know. But if you're looking for books, these two are probably my favorite so far that I've found. Anyway, so when a student is looking for a puzzle to do, they'll just thumb through the book, and as soon as they find something that they like, they just look down here on the page number. So here's 90, and so I'll bring over my other thing here. All right, so here's a box that I have, and I have all these folders in here, and they're numbered. So I would find 90 and pull it up, and there's that puzzle. Okay, so a student can easily find the puzzle that they want to make by just looking at the numbers on the folders here. So just put that right back in. All right, now I'll show you how they actually cut them out. All right, so I cut out a piece of wood, and notice how the pattern has a arrow here saying grain, and that means you want to glue it on so that the grain of the wood runs with the character. So I like to just cut just basically just kind of a circle around it like that, so it'll fit on there. I'll use my rubber cement. Put a little rubber cement on there. Make sure you get it all the way up to the edge of the paper and stick it on. Don't forget to put the lid on. Okay, so as you're cutting this out, the tendency is to want to cut out the entire outside and then hack off the pieces. But if you do that, by the time you get to the head, you only have this little tiny piece to hold on to while you're cutting off this other little piece here, and that's kind of dangerous when you're on a saw and the blade's moving right there, and it's getting kind of scary. So what I found that works really well is cut off the tail and then cut right back out, pull out the tail, then come in that exact same spot and go through here and cut out the next spot, pull that out, and then come in and cut off that, and then the whole time you still have the rest of the wood to hang on to. Even when you get down to the head, you have this hole here, but you still have this whole piece of wood to hang on to. So don't like cut off the tail and then cut out right here and have this whole chunk pop off. You want to keep as much wood left just for safety purposes. This project uses a scroll saw. The scroll saw that I have is the DeWalt, and I like this particular one because it's really easy to change the blade. But the problem is sometimes students can't turn this little knob tight enough to keep the blade in and not have it fall out. So I made these little wooden things here that they can tighten it a little bit more so that it won't slip out of the thing there. One of the most important things is to make sure that you have a tight blade. So it should be tight enough. If it's loose, it won't do anything. It'll sit there and flex back and forth. So you shouldn't be able to move it easily. Okay. This is the arm I'm using to tighten it. Anyway, so you want it just fairly tight. I take it to the number 4 usually. Now if it's loose, even though it's at the number 4, you got to take it all the way down to 0, loosen this screw here, and then move the blade back up and retighten it. Take the blade up to 4 and it should be good. Okay? Don't use a blade that's loose. You can tell just by the sound of the saw. So if we listen to it now, it's actually pretty quiet. Okay? But if we turn down the tension, you can hear a difference there. It like shakes and makes a lot of noise. So if you hear it making noise right when you turn it on, then you know something's wrong. Okay, this right here, this tube blows air so you don't have sawdust on your pattern, and so it makes it so you can see the lines better. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make a practice cut just so you can kind of see how this works. Alright, now what I like to do is I stand directly in front of the saw because the saw is going to cut directly towards me. If you're standing to the side, it's going to be hard to control. So kind of once you realize the exact direction that the saw is cutting, stand directly in front of it, and you're going to push your work into the blade in that direction. If you want to turn, you have to actually turn the wood. You want to pivot around the blade and then cut in your new direction. Never push to the side, because what happens if you push to the side of the blade will rub up against the wood, cause a lot of friction, and it'll start to smoke and burn the wood. Alright, so I'm going to go in and just going to show you how nice this blade is. This is like a number 7 blade, and it's big enough that it can cut this thick of wood, but small enough that you can actually make really tight turns.
Mindy and Heather come to the office.
I'll just make a couple of things there. Alright, so that piece right there, it should come out both directions. Okay, now if it gets stuck like it is now, that means the blade isn't at a perfect angle. Okay, the blade is not straight up and down, which means, so if you were to cut out this puzzle, you would only be able to put it together from one direction, which would be kind of hard to do. So that is not a good thing. So that lets me know that something's wrong with the table. So it's good to do a practice cut like that and make it kind of intricate so that you can make sure that it works. I guess I could force it, but that's not what I want to have to do. Alright, so I'm going to fix that problem and cut it out. This is a great project for the students who have finished what they're currently working on, and they need something to do. So after they've cut this out, then they sand each piece and make it look nice. So this could be a really cheap thing to make, but it takes some time to do, and keeps the students busy and working, and they come out with something that they can be proud of. All right, I'm going to show you a little trick on how to make sure the blade is straight up and down. I like to get a thicker piece of wood, about as thick as could fit in there, and all I'm going to do is just cut into it just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to turn it around and put it on the back of the blade. Now, if they line up perfectly, then we know the table is good. But it's just a little bit off. Let's zoom in there just to look at it. Okay, so you can see the blade and the cut are slightly different. And so to fix it, I loosen the table and turn and adjust it so that it's not exactly in line, but it makes up half the difference. All right, after you've gotten to the point where you can cut out a letter, a T or something like that, and it goes in from the front and in from the back both ways, then you're ready to cut out the puzzle. Alright, the scroll saw is probably one of the more fun machines to work with as far as just doing little things like this. Anyway, the blade is going up and down, which means that it wants to move the wood up and down. So I like to put this guard down, not so it's touching, but so it's just enough so if it does start moving up and down, it'll prevent it from jumping up a lot. Because you don't want it to go up and have it come down and smash your finger or something weird like that. It's actually a really safe machine. The blade is so small, it wouldn't be able to cut you very fast, even if it did. I've never had one ever cut me before. The only case where it would cut is if you were coming out of a cut and you're pushing right there where the blade was going to come out. So always have your fingers away from where the blade is going to be coming. And then you should be fine. Alright, so I'm just going to come straight in. I'm going to do the head first. And what I want you to do is just kind of watch the technique and stuff, especially on the turns. You want to stop and do stuff, and I'll kind of talk as we go. Right, you only want enough pressure to just make it cut. Okay, once you start realizing which way it's cutting, stand directly in front of it, and then start going. And the turn. Every time you turn, it's going to want to bounce even more, so always keep pushing down. When you're cutting something like this, it's good to cut kind of more on the outside of the line, just barely. So now right here is a very sharp turn. Now I could make that turn and go all the way around, but there's another trick. Is to cut past it and then come back and then try to come in on there. Now when I turn, I actually pull it towards me a little bit so the back side of the blade is rubbing against the wood. That way it doesn't want to cut towards me. After I turned it so that the line is pointing at me, then I start pushing forward. See, now, I'm going to stop it there. Another thing to mention, if you stop it, don't try to turn while the blade is stopped. But whenever you turn and the blade is moving, the back of the blade is getting put, and the blade wants to come forward when you turn. So sometimes you actually have to kind of hold it back as you're doing a turn. Like kind of pull it towards you slightly rather than pushing, and kind of make it slow down on the turn. Just take your time, and you won't make too many mistakes. Right here, I'm just going to keep going around the head. Cut into the eye. There's a line there. Anytime there's a line, you need to cut it. And cut in there. Cut out the eye, come forward and out. Getting the back up out of that cut that I made, and the head should just fall right out, and you should be able to put it right back in the same place once I line it up. There it goes. Fits down in, so we know the blade is still straight, everything's working good. The scroll saw, if you use a small blade, you get a really nice finish, and you won't need to sand where the blade cut. You'll have to sand the back and the front, you know, the top and the bottom, just to make everything a little bit nicer. But that is how we cut out the puzzle. So basically I would continue on. I would cut out that body piece, and then the foot, and then the wing, the next body piece, then the other foot, and then the tail, and that would be done. This is actually one of the smaller puzzles that can be done probably in a class period, and then the next day they could, you know, sand it and stain it and make it look really good. The paper actually will just peel right off. The rubber cement will probably leave a little bit of residue there, but it'll easily, if you sand it, that'll easily be removed, and it won't cause you too much grief. Alright, here's the finished dragon, and there's the piece I cut it out of. I like these puzzles because no matter what piece you grab, you can pick up the whole thing because they fit together really nice. For sanding, I just take a big sander, put it on its back, and while it's running, I'll just put them on here like this. Be careful about really small parts. Don't break them off when you're holding it. Another way of sanding is to put all the pieces back in the original block of wood so they hold together, and then just sand it on top. Alright, if you want to use stain and color it, that's okay. Also, just a oil finish with no color just brings out the beauty of the wood without changing the color too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I've poured a little bit of the oil into the bowl, and then I'm just going to dip the pieces in there and then let them kind of drip off a little bit. Do that to each of the pieces. After that, get a nice clean rag and wipe off everything that you can. And then let it dry for a day. You can have it in your locker or out in your garage. You don't want to have this in your house stinking up the house. Let it dry a little bit before you bring it indoors. Alright, there we have our finished dragon, and it's all oiled up. Now it'll last a long time. That'll make a great gift. Here's another fun thing you can do. Just write your name on a board with a marker, a wide marker, so it makes a nice wide line, and go around it with the scroll saw. Cut it out so it sticks out like this.